What happens when the most brutal slave system in the world finally pushes people past the edge of fear? When men and women who had nothing, not rights, not freedom, not even their names, decide they'd rather die standing than live on their knees? This is the story the world tried to forget. The revolution that terrified empires. And the moment when the poorest, most oppressed people on earth rewrote history with fire. She wakes in the dark. Not because morning has come, but because her back still burns from yesterday's whip. This was Saint-Domingue in the late 1700s, now Haiti, the richest colony in the world, built entirely on the suffering of enslaved Africans. Sugar made Europe rich, but sugar cost blood. Enslaved people were worked to death. Some survived only 7 years after arrival. Torture wasn't unusual. It was the system. Owners believed fear kept plantations running smoothly. But there is one thing even whips could not kill: the hope of freedom. And at night, deep in the mountains, that hope grew stronger. Vodou ceremonies became sacred spaces, not just spiritual gatherings, but meetings, planning sessions, moments where people reminded each other they were human. They prayed for liberation, but they didn't stop there. They prepared for war. On August 14, 1791, at Bois Caiman, a Vodou priest named Duddy Bachman and a high priestess, Cecil Fataman, led a ceremony that would ignite everything. In a storm so violent, it felt like the sky itself was shouting. The enslaved vowed to burn the plantations, overthrow their masters, and fight until Haiti was free. 7 days later, the island was on fire. Plantations that had operated for decades exploded into chaos. Thousands of enslaved Africans rose at once, people of different tribes, languages, and backgrounds united by one purpose: end slavery by any means necessary. France laughed at first. They believed no slave rebellion could threaten the world's strongest empire. They were wrong. From this fire rose a man who would change everything: Toussaint Louverture. He didn't look like a typical revolutionary leader. He was small, quiet, disciplined, a former enslaved man who became literate at an older age. But behind his calm was brilliance. He wasn't just fighting a rebellion. He was building a nation. He trained troops, negotiated with world powers, and played colonial rivals against one another like a grand chess master. Under his leadership, the formerly enslaved began winning battles they were never supposed to win. But France wasn't the only enemy. Spain wanted the colony. Britain wanted the colony. The United States watched nervously, terrified that Haiti's revolution would inspire their own enslaved people. Everyone doubted Toussaint, but he didn't flinch. He defeated Spain. He defeated Britain. And he forced France to abolish slavery in 1794, marking one of the rare moments the oppressor backed down out of fear. But the story wasn't over. On the other side of the ocean, a short, ambitious French leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, was rising to power. And Napoleon hated the idea of a black nation. He believed Haiti should return to slavery, return to France, and return to making money. So in 1802, he sent 20,000 soldiers, the largest overseas expedition of his career, to crush Toussaint. Napoleon was confident. He thought a black army could never defeat European troops. But he underestimated something stronger than muskets: a people who had already tasted freedom. The French fought with brutality. Toussaint fought with strategy. Yellow fever tore through the French ranks like a scythe. But then betrayal came. Toussaint was tricked, captured, and shipped to France, where he was locked in a freezing prison cell. As he slowly starved, he said one final warning: "In overthrowing me, you have only cut down the trunk of the tree of liberty. It will spring up again, for its roots are numerous and deep." He died, but he was right. The revolution didn't end, it transformed. A new leader rose, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. If Toussaint was the strategist, Dessalines was the fire. He didn't want compromise. He wanted freedom or death. Under his command, the revolution reached its most explosive stage. He pushed the French forces back, step by step, with brutal, unforgiving resolve. By 1803, Napoleon's army was broken. His generals surrendered. And for the first time in history, an enslaved population defeated a European empire. On January 1st, 1804, Dessalines stood before the people and declared, "Haiti is free. Haiti is independent." It became the first Black republic in the world, the first nation born from a successful slave revolt, a symbol of hope for the oppressed and a nightmare for every slave-owning country. The world punished Haiti for this bravery. France demanded impossible reparations. Other nations isolated it, afraid the spirit of Haiti would inspire more uprisings. But despite it all, Haiti's revolution remains one of the greatest acts of courage in human history. When people who had nothing, no power, no weapons, no freedom stood against the strongest empires on earth and won, they didn't just change one island. They changed the world. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.